Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. Wanted to put a video up today. I was reading some articles on the news this morning and got to thinking about ChatGPT. And I think this is definitely something that will continue to be talked about for quite some time. I think there's been some conversations where I work in that people have kind of said like, hey, let's use ChatGPT to create content. And much in the same way that the internet changed how we think and do things, I think artificial intelligence has also changed that, and we're really starting to see it, specifically with ChatGPT right now, but who knows what it'll look like in the future. This is a pretty interesting sector of content, coupled with quite a few things like ChatGPT, Voco from Adobe, and some of the other face overlay software. Spoof content is something that's probably becoming or could be more prevalent. And it got me thinking, like, how is ChatGPT going to change our society? And I wanted to think about this specifically from a teacher's perspective. A little bit of background about myself. I did teach for a number of years, 5 to be exact, and I left for a number of reasons, not to be included pay and just the whole climate of it. But I wanted to think, like, how is this changing us at the grassroots level, and what are the long-term effects about some of this technology? And to be clear, I think teachers are some of the most important people on the face of the earth. They literally help anyone who wants to do anything with their life learn some basic knowledge. And I'm not saying that they teach everything they'll need to know for their professional side. Like, obviously, teachers aren't going to tell doctors how to do their thing. And then if you want to become a train conductor or janitor or a drive-through attendant, right, you don't need to learn, you won't be applying chemistry, but it's always good to know some of that. More into that later. Teachers are some of the most important people on the face of the earth. But really just thinking about how AI, specifically ChatGPT will change things, I think we need to start at the core of the problem. So we have been going through this transition as a society, as a country, from factory workers to knowledge workers, and you're paid more for your thoughts than you are for your actions. And a lot of people struggle with this. I've got parents, friends, that's the old way of thinking, here's a job to do it, I'm going to get paid to do that job, still applies, but I think most people understand the logic and the steps that go into starting, like, let's say, a lawn care business. Find the lawns, get the contracts, mow the grass, do a good job. It's pretty straightforward. And there's still a huge need for those people, and there's a lot of those types of jobs available, and we need to fill those. There's a huge shortage in the world with general labor and skilled labor that I'll get into. By the way, skilled labor, what a great career choice. That's one of those things I wish I might have picked up sooner. I'm glad I didn't for my particular case, because I am finding more of my passion with the IT world. But man, if you look at what welders are making, electricians, plumbers, equipment operators, even some specialists when it gets into construction trades, they make great money. Travel construction, great money. Pipeline work, when you can find it. There's just a lot of skilled labor out there, I think, that pays really well. But I digress. As a society, we will shortly get to things where we are all knowledge worker based. And things like, CNC machining and machinists and machine operators, I think, will become more prevalent, because maybe we'll get to the point where we 3D print pipelines and welders won't need to weld as much. We 3D print houses. Eventually the machines will take over. And on that note, if you think about, AI is one of these things too that I think where people are struggling with this transition we're going through between labor force to a knowledge-based, knowledge workforce. It's easy to not trust the AI. Look at any popular movie, WALL-E. I just watched it with my kids the other day. The navigator on the ship was an AI navigator. It kept the humans in trying to stop them from going back to Earth. Terminator and Skynet, enough said about that, right? So it's easy to distrust AI. So this is going to change. We're going through so much change, and I know everyone's focused on the politics, but it's really depressing to see, hey, here's AI, here's a lot of other low-key discoveries and products are coming out, and then people just aren't talking about the implications of that. And I mean, there are some pretty big problems we're having right now. War in Ukraine, I think everyone's talking about how coming aggression could start World War III. I mean, there's not a lot of good news in the news right now. And unfortunately, bad news makes money, when it comes to capturing our attention. But back to the task at hand. How can, so here we are, we're trying to shift our workforce to more knowledge worker-based jobs. And how do we teach our kids who, honestly, when you look at how schools are set up, I really think that it's more for the factory worker, where to do more, you just work longer hours, you work harder, you have a task, you do the task. Standardized testing, standardizing everything, it's just factory work, right? And I'm not saying there's anything against factory work. There's just not as much of it because we're exporting a lot of these jobs, we're outsourcing a lot of things, and we need more people to assemble products and fix products than we do to make kind of like the base products, right? We can go get steel made abroad cheaper, components for computers made abroad cheaper. I mean, there's just so many things. We're struggling with kind of defining ourselves and no one's talking about it. So again, back to teaching, right? So this is going to change teaching. And I think that we should be teaching kids how to be problem solvers. And unfortunately, we have to make things more problem-based because the old adage of go home and do this homework, you can look the answers up, you can plug the numbers in, right? I had kids ask me all the time, why do we have to know this? We can look it up on the internet. And I used to say that, well, you could work faster, right? The old mindset when you knew it. And I think what we need to be able to teach kids now is critical thinking and problem solving, and it has to be across all the boards. And unfortunately, we can't, you can tell when a student, depending on their writing style, has used ChatGPT to write an essay. Back to what I said earlier, or there's the article about how ChatGPT actually has gotten 4s and 5s on the AP test from writing. That's insane. I'll try and put the link down below. But the fact that you can use some type of AI to write your papers, you can't necessarily give someone an assignment to go home and write it now because, well, there's a service out there that can write it for them. So, as we become a more knowledge-based society, we need to teach kids critical problem solving. And the problem with this is that we're stuck into standardized test mode. No Child Left Behind was an act that came out in the early 2000s. And ever since then, this is another reason why I left, we've all been teaching towards a standardized test. There's a list of things kids should know. And unfortunately, none of that is how to balance a checkbook, how to apply for a job, how to write a letter, how to work on a computer, how to code some, how to balance a budget, how to set a budget, how to spend, how to use credit, going all these things that everyone hears people complain about because it's not taught in school. We got to study chemistry, biology, basic equations. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, and I was a science teacher. Some basic knowledge of science is super helpful. It helps us to evaluate things like the vaccine, right? Helps us understand medicine. That's knowledge-based. That's important. But to graduate here in Indiana, I think you have to take 3 science classes. And if you're going to go be an engineer or you're going to go be a mechanic, that's just not relevant. And you get one little class on some of the most important things that there is in adulting. And it's how to take a loan out, how to do a mortgage, how to plan, how to apply for jobs, how to evaluate jobs, how to pick a career. These are things that are really important that just aren't addressed. And, they should say that parents should address this. But, I mean, as a parent, I'm spending most of my time trying to get a better job, trying to learn these things, trying to be better about it, trying to teach my kids about it, trying to pay for my kids' daycare. It's $2,000 a month for 2 kids for not even full-time daycare. It's crazy. Inflation's high, news is bad, right? It's crazy. So I think this is really a three-part in the most simplified form, is that we need to, all these tools, the internet, the answers, the calculators, the chat, GPT, the AI, these are all tools, and we are able to solve more complex problems more rapidly. And we need to show kids problem-solving skills. I think subtask 1B is to also put kids where they're most successful. I really think that school is supposed to help you be successful, right? That you can't just put all kids through this industrialized complex of everyone should know these skills. And I mean, you definitely don't know what you're going to do. I know I've changed my mind about 50 million times in the few years I've been alive, right? But teach kids critical thinking skills, part one. Acknowledge that these products exist. And then 2, put kids in problem-based learning, how to use the resources that are available to apply to problems. And then really the third step is teach evaluation, like how to evaluate problems. You know, school would be great to teach common things, like how to do things. And I think the reason we don't is because it's really hard for people to, as a community, as a team, whatever, agree on what we should be focusing on and how to do them. But I think no matter what you believe, moral, ethics, religious, whatever, finding the tools, the resources that are available, identifying the problem, solving both complex and less complex problems, and then evaluating possible answers, those are like the core things that we should be doing, like how to identify the problem. Throughout school, you're constantly given the problem to solve. They'd never really teach you how to identify the problem. And yeah, I mean, I think acknowledging that ChatGPT is a tool that's available and figuring out ways to better use it and just having that conversation, I think, is so important. And for teachers, we can't just send work home. We can't be like, write this response. We can't necessarily solve this problem. I mean, you do say, show me your work. I understand that. But I think having more homework should be comprehension. And then taking the knowledge that you've watched videos or maybe learned about or read about, taking some notes, grading those kids on those notes, bringing that information in to apply to problems and working through stuff. You know, I think it's weird that so much of learning is the teacher showing students not information and then trying to answer questions, or just showing them how to do something and then testing them, when instead I think we should flip it and say, hey, go home, try and learn this, and then let's apply it and work through and show your mastery here where I can help you guide through it. And it's something that I miss as a teacher. I wasn't able to always do that. And you know, you send kids home and you don't necessarily show them, they may not read the information. As a teacher, it's frustrating. It's easy to be like, okay, I'm important. I'm up here presenting information, I'm talking, and you're listening to me and learning it. But then, you know, it's like up to the parents to help solve the problem. You know, why not watch the videos at home, do the reading at home, have some guided reading worksheets, and then take that and use it and say, hey, these are the critical pieces of information that you know. I'll show you how to apply it. Now you do it. I honestly think that should be there. The problem with that, though, is there's lots of kids who don't have a great home life who may not be able to get that done. So we also have to solve that problem. I think for Indiana, too, when I grew up in the early 2000s, coming up through school, late 90s and early 2000s, I think we were on block schedule, and that gave teachers a lot of time to present information and then help guide students through it and work through some stuff. And then whatever you didn't get done at school, you had to take home and finish, right? And now we're on 7 classes a day as opposed to 4. And some people, oh, I can't focus. It's not good for me to focus. Well, a lot of people sit at a job for 8 hours and don't do diddly squat. So the fact that you go to focus on 4 different things throughout the year or throughout the day is nice. Plus you have homework time. Plus you have time to ask questions. Plus the teacher doesn't have to cram everything into 30 or 40 minutes. So much nicer. The problem is it requires 8 teachers per school year as opposed to 7. So it's a budget thing. And I mean, teachers should get paid more, and we need to stop focusing on the standardized testing. But at any rate, I think AI is a tool, and I think we need to address more about problem solving and change how we look at teaching. And that's why I left, and that's why I advocate for teachers now, is they have a really thankless and tough job. I think we need to, the problem I see is that everyone's coming up with a new theory, and we need to put the kids first. And it seems like it's really boring for a kid to sit there and listen to a teacher talk forever, and then they struggle at home to comprehend what they just had to sit there and listen to you. And as a lifelong learner, like, I'd much rather be comfortable And, you know, even if I had a rough home life, you could go to a friend's house or, you know, go to the library, find someplace safe and listen to and watch the videos and do the readings. And that's much easier, and you can get caught up different ways than like maybe you go home and you have to work a second job. Like, it's hard to focus on homework, right? But maybe you're working a cashier job and you're listening to that video your teacher needs you to watch for tomorrow's lesson. Yeah, I really think we need to revisit how to approach this learning thing. But hey guys, thanks for watching. I kind of blurred on, but you know, I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you think some of the tools like ChatGPT are going to change how we do things, how we learn things, how we teach things. I think it's huge. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one.